Hello and welcome to ARCoaching questions. I've put this series together in order to answer commonly asked questions that I receive from my clients, but also from social media. So over the course of this series, what I'm going to do is answer probably about 2 to 5 questions within about 10 minutes on topics that are asked to me on a regular basis. So hopefully in time this is going to build up as a good amount of information for people to access, and I hope it can help you out. And if you have anything that you would like to ask, anything you would like to have become a coaching question, then feel free to drop it in the comments below. I'm going to add it to my list, and like I said, every week I'm going to answer about 2 to 5 questions, taking about 10 minutes. So I hope you enjoy, and we're going in to the first question. Cardio in the off season. Is it needed? Well, there's not really an exact answer to this, and I know everybody is going to have a different take on it. But how I see it is, during the off season you are looking to progress your strength and your lifts and increase volume over time. You're also going to be ramping up calories. So if we were to include cardio, you're going to be eating into those calories, and that's going to mean you're going to have to eat even more. And at the very start of an off season, that's probably okay. But the deeper and deeper you get into an off season, if you are also doing cardio on top, your calorie intake could get crazy high to the point that it's going to be really hard to get those calories in. I think, most people would say like 3,500, 4,000 calories is a good amount of calories to get in. Even that can appear to be a struggle to some people to start with. Don't get me wrong, there's guys out there who can do 5,000, 6,000 calories a day and they're cool with it. But for a lot of people, 3,500, 4,000 calories is a good amount of food to get in through the day. So if you're doing cardio on top of that, you are going to be increasing your calories even further. So if you're somebody who struggles to eat, that may not be good unless cardio gives you an appetite, which then it could be good. So that's one thing. Also, because we want to progress on our key lifts, if we're putting cardio in, we need to weigh up how much of an effect that is having in terms of fatigue. So if there was cardio within your training plan, you need to place it in points where it's not going to remove from performance of key sessions and key lifts. Prime one would be like a lower body day. If you're hitting 20 minutes of hard cardio the day before, is your squat and deadlift going to be the same the following day if that cardio wasn't performed? Chances are it's probably going to take a knock. Also, another reason I see is when people start to diet and we need to bring in a calorie deficit. So if you've got loads of calories, then chances are we can use that and pull from food. But if you're already doing, say, 3 30-minute cardio sessions per week, then all we can do is add to that. So if you're somebody who's training 4 or 5 days a week and you're already doing 3 30-minute sessions, that there could soon mean that, you're training resistance 5 days a week, and then on top of that, you are going to be doing 5 6 days worth of cardio. It's, have you got enough hours in the day? I know some people will say for fitness and to maintain that fitness. So if you're also involved in a sport and you've got a reason to be fit, then yes, you will have to balance out your cardio and weight training, and prioritize probably depending on your sport and where you are in relation to the season of your sport. But if you're somebody who is just purely focused on physique, then the only thing you need fitness for is to get through your training sessions, which if you are consistent with your training sessions and you're pushing hard, I would argue that you can keep a lot of your fitness that you need through doing your training sessions. So the most specific form of fitness you're going to have is doing your training sessions. I do understand though, in an off season, cardio and fitness can go down the pan, just because it's a long time, and especially if you've started working with heavier loads and lower reps, you will lose the lungs to be able to get through those higher rep sets, and that there can always be pulled up for a period of time if you were to need to. But if somebody's going through an off season, chances are within say 12 months, give or take a couple, they're probably going to do some form of mini cut. It's probably going to involve a bit of cardio. It's probably going to pull their fitness level up to a point that when they go back into a gaining phase, they can perform with a good work capacity. So should you be doing cardio in your off season or gaining phase? It's not really a yes or a no. It comes a lot down to personal preference and how you can balance that. Personally, I keep it out just because I don't want to spend that many days in the gym. The extra couple hundred calories would be pretty novel for a couple of weeks, and then they'd actually be hard to get in, and I have no need for that level of fitness beyond getting through my training sessions. 1 rep max testing. Do you need to do it? Well, it's going to come down to your goal. If you are a strength or power athlete, specifically if you are a power lifter, then knowing your 1 rep max and testing your 1 rep max is going to be pretty important to you. Whilst if you are a physique athlete, if you're somebody who just wants to be fit and healthy, do you need to know your 1 rep max for your squat, bench or deadlift, or other key lifts if you're choosing to use a variation of those lifts? So testing an actual 1 rep max, in order to see what your 1 rep max is, you would have to ideally taper down in order to allow a training effect to happen, so you can therefore express maximal strength in the form of a 1 repetition maximum. And if you're a power lifter, that's going to be important, and you will probably structure things like that within your training blocks, and also in relation to competition. So for you guys, it's brilliant, but for most people, testing an actual 1 rep max, performing 1 repetition, probably isn't that helpful. And therefore, what I will utilize myself and with clients is an AMRAP set, as many reps as possible on select exercises. Why I say select is because it may not be the squat, bench and deadlift. Not everybody has those in their training. So it might be a squat variation, it might be a press variation, it might even be a pull, it might be a deadlift variation. Performing as many reps as possible under a certain load can then give you an estimated or a calculated 1 rep max, which you can then use as a guide point on if you're progressing. So it doesn't mean that that is your 1 rep max, because truth is, it's not always going to be exact. Everybody's different. Some people, your estimated max will be 5-10 kilos heavier than your actual 1 rep max if you were to go and test it. Saying that, other people, you would absolutely smoke your estimated 1 rep max if you've calculated it off a load that maybe you performed for a 6 rep max. When calculating 1 rep maxes, when you're using an AMRAP, then see, it's more relevant if you've done a 3 rep max, will probably give you a more accurate 1 rep max than say a 10 rep max, which give a more accurate reading than a 20 rep max. So normally when performing AMRAPs and using it to calculate an estimated 1 rep max, I always try and keep them well under 10. Ideally, probably somewhere in that 4 to 6 range is good. It's definitely going to give a more accurate calculation. And then you can use that over time. So you may have never performed a 140 kilo bench press, but you know that because you can perform 120 kilos for 6 reps, then your estimated 1 rep max is probably going to come in at about 140. It would be down to you whether you ever test that 1 rep max. For a lot of people, that 1 rep max wouldn't be relevant. So there's no need to test it, because to truly test it, you're going to have to kind of think of, there's probably going to be 2-3 weeks in tapering down, testing, deloading, and then going back into a training block, which probably isn't the best use of your time. So going for an actual 1 rep max, for most people, unless that is your sport and something you need to know, probably isn't that important. Being aware of your 1 rep max through AMRAP testing is a very good sign on how strength is progressing, because if that calculated 1 rep max is creeping up, you know you are getting stronger. Calculating macros. People look for that magic number. People want that secret magic number of calories and ratio of protein to carbs to fats. Well, truth is, finding your perfect numbers will come down to trial and error. When it comes to calculating your macros, and this one I'm going to go through, and I'm going to try and keep it as short and brief as possible, because there's just so much out there. Spend 5 minutes, Google it, and you're going to find it pretty quick. So, calculating your macros. First off, we need to know how many calories you need within a day doing nothing. And that is your basal metabolic rate. There's loads of calculators out there for that. And then we need to multiply that by an activity multiplier. So depending how active you are and how much training you're doing, that there can make the increases to that basal metabolic rate. So that there would then give you a calorie number. And you can do this yourself, or you can use an online calculator, or keep it very simple. If you're looking to maintain, it's your body weight in pounds times 14 to 16. 16 if you're highly active, probably if you're more heavily muscled, and then 14 if you're less active and not as heavily muscled. If you're looking at gain, anything from 16 to about 22, depending how active you are. And then if you're looking to cut or diet, you will be looking at anything from about 10 to 14. They are very rough guidelines. They're very crude, but it does give you a start point. And then what you want to do is you want to be consistent with those calories over a period of probably 2 weeks, and then make the adjustments from that. So if you're looking to gain, but you're actually dropping weight, then what you need to do is increase those calories further, normally by about 10%. If you're looking to drop weight, but you're maintaining or gaining, then what you need to do is you need to adjust your calories down, probably about 10%, reassess. And then you just keep making those adjustments in terms of calories. As for how we spread macros, so protein, fats and carbs, there's not an exact rule, and everybody will do it slightly different, but very general rule, and I think most people, this is probably the one that everybody's quite happy with, about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Maybe lean body weight if you are heavily overweight. So 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Your fats are going to be anything from about 15% of your total calories to about 30-35% of your total calories, and then the rest is made up of carbohydrate. So how do you know if you go for the higher fat or the lower fat? Because obviously if you go higher fat, it's going to bring your carbs down. Go lower fat, it's going to push your carbs up. This is very much going to come down to partly eating preferences, but also how lean you are currently, how frequently you're training. So as a guide, I'd probably go like smack in the middle, probably about 20-25% fat for most people to start with. And then you can decide whether you need more or if you need less. If I take somebody who is reasonably lean, muscular, training say 5-6 times a day, I'm probably going to favour a lower fat and higher carb, because more carbs is going to equal better performance in the gym, and better performance in the gym is ultimately what we want. But obviously with calculating macros, there isn't a perfect answer. It will always tie in with your goal, and then it will also come down to your own preferences. I know there's people out there who like very low carb diets. I know people out there who like quite moderate of both. So there's that preference, and then I would say performance is your other big decider on that. If you're full of carbs, chances are you're going to have better performance, better pumps in the gym than if you're on lower carbs and higher fat. So there we go. That is roughly how to calculate your macros. So start with a number, then tweak and modify relevant to your goal. Thank you for listening to this week's AR coaching questions. I hope if you've got any questions, you stick them below. If you've got a coaching question, stick those below. I will add those to the list, and tune in next week for more of AR coaching questions. See you then.